Welcome to the Beauty Pro Wellness Podcast, the podcast that mixes wellness with personal development tips and info specifically for beauty industry professionals. I'm your host, Abby O'Sullivan, a longtime esthetician and lash artist turned wellness coach. With burnout and health issues on the rise amongst my beauty pro friends, I know we need a space to come together, to learn, support each other, and get the push you need to take care of your health. Together, we'll dive into topics like mobility training for a less achy body, managing stress and the chaos of running a business and handling clients, setting up your self-care routines, and so much more. You deserve to feel as good as your clients do when they leave you. Let's make time for you, starting with this podcast. Welcome back to the Beauty Pro Wellness Podcast. And today we are talking about how to take care of your janky body. All the ways that we typically are trying to care for our body that is having aches and pains and maybe even worse. And I want to share something that has really changed my body with you in so many ways. Typically, people, beauty pro to beauty pro, other people to you, maybe even professionals, medical professionals will tell you to make sure you're stretching, make sure you're drinking your water. You'll get into regular chiropractic appointments. Maybe you've gone to physical therapy. Maybe you take part in regular massages or acupuncture. And all of those things are great. All of those things can work in a type of combination, for treatments with each other. Hopefully you don't have to go to physical therapy all the time, and that is more of a short-term thing. We hope that it is. And even with chiropractic, I'm hoping that's more of a short-term thing for you. And I love stretching. You'll hear me talk about stretching really isn't enough. Stretching is not enough for you to take care of your body. It's actually really not changing anything in your body at a fundamental level long term. Stretching is great for relaxation. I have frequented a chiropractor way back in the day, and it wasn't the solution for me at that time. I ended up going into a type of physical therapy, but I have visited a chiropractor at a different time a few years ago. And I have found that they are so different. Chiropractors are so different in that some really are just kind of crack ya, see you next week, that type of thing. Some of them have more comprehensive modalities and treatments that they can do in their office. And some of them have just a totally different approach. I've definitely had a really good experience with a chiropractor that didn't just adjust me because he probably could have. He really explained to me what was going on, and he tried something different on me and helped me with my problem. So I want to say that while I think that there's a lot of people in general, a lot of modalities that it's you can really get roped into just depending on them for treatments and maybe a day or so of relief. But we have to take it into our own hands as well. And we have to be doing things ourselves to take care of our bodies. It's like getting your homework or giving your clients home care. You have to do that too. And we do that through exercise. We can do that through stretching. We do that through the nutrition, the diets that we eat, the food that we eat, getting water, getting out and getting sunlight, staying active. And let me tell you, I was doing that. At one point in my life, I was working out, I was stretching, but I still ended up in physical therapy. And what I know now is what I wish I'd had then was extra tools for me to be able to work on my body myself and to try to basically fortify, strengthen my body so I wouldn't fall into these times where I am just oh my gosh, I'm such in pain. My body feels all out of whack. I want to be able to take care of myself. I kind of wanted homework from some of the professionals that I was seeing. And even dynamic warm-ups, they're pretty cool and they can kind of prime you for action in the gym. But I'm going to touch on those a little bit later because what the deal is that all of these things, all these modalities can help and they can keep you going, maybe again, merely surviving from appointment to appointment. But what I want to share with you is something that you can do on your own. It's the tool that I found that I was just like, oh my gosh, it blew my, I'm like, I wish I'd had this a million years ago. I've got to tell everybody about this. It really is how we can strengthen our bodies on a really deeper internal level to make them more resilient and just to feel really, really strong in not just like bodybuilding ways, not just like, cool, I can flex my muscles, and stay feeling well in your career long term. People are leaving the industry burned out because they're either not making enough money or their body is broken, maybe both. And I really don't want that for you. I want you to be able to, even if you want to genuinely exit the industry, you can do it with feeling good without a broken body, right? So that you can go live the rest of your life happily. So what is this tool? What am I talking about? It is mobility training, and specifically functional range conditioning, FRC, which I have a certification in. I couldn't wait to take the certification once I started learning about it and implementing it into my own regular strength training sessions and recovery sessions. So I want to warn you that I can get a little bit nerdy about it. The human body is incredible, and knowing that we can take back a bit more control over our own self-care is totally my jam, guys. It's totally my jam. And when I found functional range conditioning, I wish that I had known about it so many years earlier when I was so booked and I was really in pain. If you didn't know, I ended up in 2014 and 15 with really bad pain in my hips. And then I ended up with tingly, numb fingers, my pinky finger and my ring finger. So I was still having pain in my hips. And a few months into that bullshit, my fingers were going numb. And I was like, this is a problem, as if it hadn't already been a problem. But I was like, this is a real problem. Like if my hands are going numb and I'm trying to do lashes on clients and I couldn't even sit comfortably through the whole entire day, I was slapping on lashes trying to get done because I was so uncomfortable. And I ended up in physical therapy for a few months. I went weekly for a little bit, then I went every other week, and it was active release therapy, and it saved my body. And it's basically like in that time frame that I started to wish that I'd had something else to where that could never happen again. So I started with functional range conditioning. I actually hired a coach who was certified in it. I hired him as my personal trainer so that I could begin to learn this system and implement it into my own training, which is very specific to like the things that I really like doing in weightlifting, but also to building my body for career longevity and sort of mitigating the amount of freaking sitting in one position that we do. I knew that other beauty professionals needed to know about this too, because it changed my body. It gave me a tool that actually helped alleviate the aches and pains that I had from just like sitting all day and being kind of tight and static in one position, to work on imbalances and sticky points like in my body, in my joints, and to create a different kind of strength in my body that transferred into other parts of my life, but into my lifting. Like I began to feel so strong in a whole new way and definitely more resilient. And you deserve to feel this way too, and you can. So for instance, this is so simple, but this is how everyday injuries occur, right? When you're doing the simple things in life. Like I was hauling the mulch out of my car into my garden, or I was gardening, or I went to lift up a heavy box and I hurt my back. So this example is me. I tend to jog to my car a lot, or to the door of wherever I'm going, especially when it's cold. It's like walking just takes too long. I don't want to be cold. I don't really know why I do it. It's stupid, but I'm just in a hurry, I guess. And more often than not, I used to tweak my ankle, just that little temporary sprain where it's like you step down, something happens and your foot kind of bounces back up. You're like, oh, okay, fine. I will try to take it a little bit more slowly in the freaking parking lot in my little walk jog. as I began to work more on my mobility, specifically ankle, hip, and knee, I noticed that this didn't happen anymore. And I was working on those areas for my training sessions to get deeper squats, better squats, more control in my squats, to just have a better range of motion in my hips in general. But then it transferred over to the fact that I didn't sprain my ankle in the parking lot anymore. The muscles in the joint space were essentially stronger. And I 100% attribute this to my mobility training, because I've been lifting for a long time. I jump rope here and there. I'm not like much of a runner because I just don't want to run. But I 100% attribute actually specifically working on those areas with mobility, with the FRC system, to me not spraining my ankles. So while we're on this, because I know it's so common for so many people, I've had issues, like I said, with my hips and in my low back and my left shoulder specifically. With the tools that I have from mobility training, I've been able to help myself overcome the aches, the pains, the tightness, and even some shoulder problems that I had last year that came up when I didn't warm up properly one day. You know how that goes. You skip the thing you know was going to help you, and then you rush through it, and then you jump into your workout, and you're like going ham on it, and you end up spraining, straining, or pulling something. And let's be real, like that's dumb. That's so dumb, because it's stuff that really can be prevented very easily. And for me, especially when I just know better, because I know the way that I've worked for years, I have to take a little bit of time and be intentional about my warm-ups. I don't have to take like 30 freaking minutes or anything, but I have to be a little bit intentional about it. And apparently that day I was just like, man, I got to get in and get out. So, and then you have to take time to recover, or people end up pushing through and they make it worse and they feel worse longer, and like nothing really ever gets better, right? And with my left shoulder, I used to joke that I had like a little monster knot and around my shoulder blade. I used to unconsciously hike my left shoulder a little bit while I was working, a lot, like so long that my body basically adapted to that position. And it was so hard for me to relax that. And it was just always like this knotty mass of tissues. It was shit. And I was always chasing down the massage therapist to like, help me rub this out, like help me. And that also affects how you're trying to lift. Like if you're trying to do anything overhead, if you're trying to put a suitcase over your head in the airplane, if you're trying to lift up your kids, or if you're trying to do a shoulder press, you know, in the gym, those types of the quote tightness and the restrictions, that stickiness, can affect how you lift, and it can make you more prone to injury because, well, let me keep going because I'm going to get into that. Again, I just nerd out and I just get going on any tangent that I can. I love talking about this stuff so much. So let's talk about stretching, because I know it sounds like I'm shitting on it, and maybe other modalities, and I promise that I am not, because different things work for different people, and I want you to just be able to try different things, find what works for you, okay? Especially if you have injuries, especially if you've been told certain things because of x-rays or whatever. You really need to pay attention to that and take care of yourself. And what you need to understand about stretching is that it is only temporary relief. It's like a little trick to the nervous system. And typically no one is stretching long enough for there to be any change in the tissue at a cellular level. So it's not fixing anything. It's a temporary Band-Aid that feels good. I don't want you to cut out stretching. Keep stretching, moving outside of the positions that you're in all day. It's relaxing. It can help you move out some energy, you know, when you get those big like cat stretches. It's just releasing some energy from your body. That's great. Also be aware that it's not fixing anything long term, okay? So if we're gonna do anything like stretching, like going and getting massages, like all these treatments that we go and get, you need to also work on reinforcing your body and moving into what mobility training actually is and how it is different from stretching or even dynamic warm-ups. Dynamic warm-ups are those series of movements that you see people doing to prep for their workouts. They do increase blood flow. They can help with some muscle activation depending on what you're doing. They can make you feel looser and ready for action, and it really depends on what is included in that quote dynamic warm-up. It's kind of a broad term, and I see a lot of different things. Okay, so just know that I'm kind of talking about a general sense of that term here. Mobility training can help you dial in on specific areas to increase your range of motion and the strength that you have in your different ranges of motion. So we were talking about like the overhead press earlier. It improves joint health and resiliency. So if we're talking about my sprained ankle, mobility training involves resistance to actually strengthen the tissues, increasing the load capacity. So allowing my ankle to take the brunt of my body weight as I jog instead of protesting and spraining. Mobility training is a type of resistance or strength training, kind of like a body weight workout. What I love about it is the specificity of it. So like I can work on my hips, I can work on my knees, I can work on my wrists. There's, workouts for your neck, for your cervical spine. But with mobility training, when it's done properly, you also gain more control, better core strength, stronger connection to your body and to your muscles, which is beneficial for so many reasons, especially if you're in the gym, especially if you feel like you can't engage or activate muscles. If you feel like you got sleepy glutes, which isn't really a thing, but like if you feel like you have sleepy glutes, like this is what will really help you connect to your body. You will get better at lifting, your form will improve, you'll improve your actual lifts. Like you could improve what you're lifting weight-wise. And you know how important it is when you're doing squats, when you're doing deadlifts, to know how to brace your body properly. This can really help you with that. You can also use it to alleviate aches and pains that we all tend to experience in our careers because of the isometric contractions. You can empower yourself and stop depending so much on outside treatments. So let me run through a scenario here. You sit all day as an esthetician or lash artist or nail artist, and you're experiencing stiffness or tightness in your hips and your low back, and it seems like you can't quite stretch it out. You feel like at the end of the day, you can't stand up straight. Like you're like, oh, with your hand on the low back, like, oh, I know you can see what I'm doing even through the audio. It's uncomfortable to squat down, or like you can't for very long. And if you're lifting, this could affect like your squat depth, how in control or trusting you feel of your body, and like how trusting you feel of your body under that weight. And if your knees are caving in as well. What's happening physically is that you are in a static position all day, sitting with your body, your muscles, and your nervous system are all acclimating to that position. Your head is down slightly, hands and arms in front of you, bent 90-ish degrees at the hips and knees, if you actually sit that way all day without crossing your feet, propping one up on your chair, and not hiking one shoulder like I used to do. I have to consciously not do that. Your body is acclimating to the position that is being asked of it most. So when you go to move out of that position, you feel it, which is, it's really normal. You feel stiff after a long period of time. Same thing when you've been on a plane a long time or in a car a long time. You're just in that one position that you really can't get out of. So it's normal to feel like a little bit stiff. You can shake it off to a certain point, but in our everyday life, in work, we can end up with these imbalances and we might overcompensate. And I was doing this when I had that really bad pain in my right hip. I was leaning towards the left, like really trying to sit on my left thigh, left butt cheek, which didn't make anything better. I remember walking through a store and I was just lopsided. It was so dumb. It was so dumb. I really needed to get help way before I did. And it can happen unconsciously. You may not even realize how much you're compensating for the imbalances. So, in this example, what's happening in the body, your hip flexors have a decreased range of motion, or you might hear the term shortening, like shortened hip flexors or tightness. I use a lot of air quotes that you can't see here to be comfortable sitting in that position. So your hip flexors are doing that so that you are comfortable in your sitting position. This can cause pain in the low back since they connect from the front, the top of the quad and the front to the lumbar spine in the back. So front to back and top half to bottom half of the body, which is what the hip flexors, how they connect in your body. So it's kind of like when you go to stand up, because it's in that shortened position in the front, it's like pulling from the front and the back and all of the above. And you're feeling like, ooh, and your joints and your hips are just kind of stuck in one position too, right? So it makes sense. Like your body is just really incredible at adapting to maintain its own homeostasis to keep you, quote, safe, to keep you comfortable. And your nervous system doesn't really know the difference. Like it's okay to stand up, right? Don't give me pain, It's basically like, oh, this is happening a lot, so we're just going to like get comfortable here. And when you go to stretch, you're like, whoa. Your nervous system says, whoa. And you might even avoid it because it's so whoa, With mobility training, you can start with simple movements to explore your range of motion, like what you've already got, what you're already capable of. And you can feel where there is stickiness and resistance. Then you can begin to use a stretch plus resistance and isometric contractions to increase your range of motion, increase your control over your limbs and your body, strengthen your hips and your low back, and ease the aches. Communicate with your body and your nervous system in a different way. We talk about this all the time in mindset work, right? Like, quote, rewiring the brain. It's creating like new neural pathways. It's the same thing here. Like when you're learning a new lash technique and it feels weird at first, like lashes feels really weird at first. And then you build the connections and you get used to it. And then you're a pro and you keep fine tuning over time, like what you're doing. And you realize like the movements that you do might be so slight. It's not going to be something that other people pick up, but you really fine tuned it, right? That is exactly what happens with functional range conditioning too, and all of this stuff. We're just continually getting better and getting stronger. Let's talk about isometric contractions really quickly, just so in case you're like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm going to give you a little overview really quick. So isometric contractions are a static contraction. Simply put, it's like when you're flexing in the mirror, like, look at my biceps, yo. Like your arm is neither lengthening out nor shortening. Like if you were to do a bicep curl, you're doing an eccentric when you lower the weight and you're doing a concentric when you're lifting the weight up. So your arm is lengthening, the muscle is lengthening, then it's shortening. But in a static contraction, an isometric contraction, it's not doing anything. Your muscle is tense and it's activated, but you're not going to see the joint moving. So it's like pushing against an immovable object. When we use an isometric contraction, we can build strength in that fixed range. Now, it's not going to be like how you build strength when you're going through a full range of motion lifting weights, but it's significant for what we're using it for in FRC, which is to create more stability and mobility in a joint and the surrounding area, like the tissues surrounding the joint. So isometrics that I know you've heard of and probably have done, besides flexing in the mirror, are planks. We all know how slowly time passes in a plank. That's an isometric contraction. Wall sits, bridge holds, or simply pushing or pulling an object that won't move. So that's what isometric contractions are. And that's what we use a lot in functional range conditioning. Because we as beauty professionals basically have to be in the same position all day, hairstylists, you're standing a lot, but your arms are generally like kind of up and down a lot. I know you do get to kind of sit sometimes if you have a moment. But because we have to be in the same positions all day, you can use mobility training as a tool for recovery from your day, preventing injury just in your general life, and improving your strength overall. Like, great, it can help you be a better lifter, stronger athlete, but it's really so amazing for helping you mitigate the toll your job takes on your body. Some additional reasons I love my mobility practice is it's a mindfulness practice for me. And it can be for you too. You become very present with your body, with your breathing, with so much going on that can disconnect us from ourselves and from our bodies as you work to build and run your business, the stress of it all. Tuning back into your body, it helps you heal. It helps you recover from so much stress and so much that's going on, just to be able to come back to yourself, to get a little bit out of the head and back into the body. And I find that it can be very meditative, and I enjoy not only the challenge of it, but the results of it as well. It forces you to slow down just a bit and not rush so much, to focus inward. You develop better control, balance, and stability in your body. And you will notice this as you go about your work and about your life. You're going to notice it in the gym. You may notice it in bed when you're having sexy times with your partner. It transfers over into all other areas of your life. Like, this isn't just for, like, again, it's not to just be like, oh, I'm a big bodybuilder. Like, this is to create a functional fucking body that does what it's supposed to or whatever you want it to do. It can be used to increase your flexibility, but also the strength that you have in those positions so that you can reduce the risk of injury. Because just because you're flexible doesn't mean that you have strength or control there. It just means you're bendy. It helps you improve your lifts, your yoga practice, Pilates, whatever you like doing. It can be done at home with really simple tools like yoga blocks. I use certain moves as part of my warm-up on recovery days to alleviate aches I get from sitting, either doing my remote work or in lashing. And it can be designed for the individual, so whatever it is that you need. It is for everyone. And overall, this training improves your joint health by helping to produce synovial fluid, which keeps the joints lubricated. We all want to stay well as we grow older. You don't have to give up and just say, oh, it's just normal to not be able to move as you get out of bed. It's not once you hit 40 and it all goes downhill, because guys, for crying out loud, I'm 40 and I do not relate to that shit. And I feel like as a lash artist, it ages your body so fast if you let it. So that's, again, like, that's why this is so important for me to put this information out here for you guys and to encourage you, and why I'm creating a program just for you based on all of this stuff. It's called the Free Your Body Strength and Mobility Training for Beauty Pros. It's coming soon. I'm going to talk about it in just a second, but this is why it's so important, because I have been there. I have been so busy and so booked and so overwhelmed, and I've been in pain. And I thought, I was stretching, I was getting massages, I was trying out a chiropractor, I was working out, and I still, like, physical therapy was the only thing that actually helped my body. And that's a big investment. That was thousands of dollars. It was out of pocket, over $100 every single appointment, thousands of dollars on that. And I wish that I had just known. Let me also add in that I needed better boundaries, and I needed to raise my prices a lot more than I did. I raised them and it wasn't near enough. I lost 2 people, guys. I lost 2 people. I had like 60 to 70 clients and I lost 2 people. I obviously needed to raise my prices more. That's another part of the equation, but a separate conversation. So what I love about mobility training now is it just makes me feel like really, really powerful in a different way. And it makes me feel like I live alone, and I can do the things that I need to do and not worry about my body, really, and I can lash and I can do that. I actually schedule myself quite differently these days than I ever used to, and I don't work near as much, but I can use these things when I need to recover as well from lashing, because it doesn't mean that you're never going to have aches and pains again, right? You have to just kind of constantly keep up with it because we're constantly going back to that position. So the Free Your Body strength and training programs for beauty pros that are coming to you very soon are a combination of what I've learned from functional range conditioning and other movements that I like to incorporate into my my warm-ups, into my recovery sessions, and just like my mobility sessions in general that I use to specifically work on an area. Like if I want to work on hips one day or my spine one day. So what I'm putting together for you are follow along classes that you can use as workouts or as a supplement to your strength training programs with suggestions on how you can use this in your warm up. When I use these movements the way that I use them in my warm ups, then when I go to lift, I feel very strong, like my muscles are turned on. They're more engaged more quickly. Like I don't have to do necessarily warm-up sets especially for like my hypertrophy ranges. When I'm in that zone, I don't have to do like really like warm-up sets. I can grab the weight that I last left off with and I can go for it on a general basis. I always like check in with myself. Okay. So I don't want to say this is like super black and white. Now, if I'm going for heavier weight, less reps, I will absolutely do ramp up sets. If you lift, like you probably know what I'm talking about here. But what I just really love about this is I just feel more fluid. I feel better in my workouts. When we're sitting all day, we're not really using our body a whole lot. So then to just like stretch a little bit, walk on a treadmill, and then like go straight into your lift, I mean, you could just be getting so much more out of your workouts if you actually warm up properly. So that's why I'm combining all of this stuff for you. So you really can use it as workouts or you can use it as a supplement. I want to show you how I bring this FRC training because it can get really in the weeds. I want to show you how I bring it into my life for my everyday just functioning overall. That's what I love about this. And I'm so excited to get this out to you. It's going to have like a neck class. We're going to have a hip class and a back class. And we're going to talk about our wrists, our precious wrists. Okay, so that's coming soon. Of course, follow on Instagram so that you know when it's coming. If you haven't downloaded the Beauty Pro Mobility Flow, go do that. It's linked in the show notes. It's an incredible flow that you can take yourself through before or after your day in the spa or with clients, whatever you're doing. I created it specifically for you guys. It's 5 or 6 or 7 different movements that are staples in my life, and I want you to have them too. So go sign up for that. Follow along with it. Once you learn this stuff, then you can do it on your own. You don't have to watch me the whole time if you don't want to. I hope that this is inspiring you to really take it upon yourself to take care of yourself just a little, take care of your body just a little bit more, and try something new, try something different, and not just be like, well, my body hurts, I guess I have to go to the chiropractor now, because you don't always, okay? I'm not saying don't go and get the opinion or whatever, but also do your due diligence, get different opinions, try different modalities. And for God's sakes, like do your homework and take care of your body yourself with my mobility training, okay? Because it's amazing and I know it's going to change your life just like it did mine. I will shout it from the rooftops. All right. I will see you in the next episode. We got something real special coming, and I'm going to drop an episode just for that. I'll see you. I hope you have a great day. Thank you for tuning into the Beauty Pro Wellness Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes, leave a review, and share with your friends in the beauty industry. Beauty Pro Wellness Podcast is produced and crafted by Wonder Podcast Productions.